years now, we've been trying to get access to Mr. For 20 years now, we've been trying to get access to Mr. James Santos, aka Otis Jackson. For 20 years, he has confessed to the crime that my father has served 20 years for. For 20 years, he hasn't wavered in his testimony. We've had the documents. We've just never been able to hear his voice or see his face as he tells us that he's the man who committed this crime. Until now.
Mr. Santos, can you please state and spell both your first and last name for the court reporter?
Yes, sir. James Santos, JamesSantos.
One of the main reasons why you've never heard from Mr. Santos or he didn't testify in our original case is because he's been painted as delusional or mentally incompetent, but that's just not the case. Mr. Santos is well within his wits. In fact, he's intelligent, but you don't have to take my word for it. He was actually evaluated and cleared by a clinical psychologist in 2017 before being allowed to testify in another unrelated murder trial.
Mr. Santos, can you take a look at that report and see if you recognize that to be the report that was completed following Dr. Hudson's mental health evaluation of you in 2017?
Yes, sir.
Does it appear to be a fair, true, and accurate depiction of that report?
Yes, sir.
Or at this time, I'd request to move into evidence what's been marked as defense 28.
Mr. Spider said there was no objection.
That is correct, Your Honor. I'd like clarification about the dates of this one. It said August 2017. Clarification that it predates.
Yes, sir. So for clarification, Mr. Santos, it looks like the evaluation was done on July 31st. The date of the report is August 1st, 2017. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. 28, defense exhibit 28 will be admitted.
Mr. Santos, based on his evaluation, did Dr. Hudson ultimately opine that you demonstrated a factual and rational appreciation of the legal process with no evidence of a mental illness or intellectual deficit, further finding that you have an agenda for providing testimony which is consistent with your philosophies, lifestyle, and life history? Is that all correct?
Yes, sir.
Crazy what you can find out when you ask an expert. What's also interesting is that though the description given by the victims was not accurate in describing Imam Jamil Al-Amin, it did describe someone else, the primary descriptors being 5'8", 5'9", with cold gray eyes. Now, I don't know if Mr. Santos has cold gray eyes, but I wonder how tall he is.
How tall are you?
5'8".
Another element of the description given was that the shooter was wounded. My father was not wounded, and other officers attested to the fact that the victims were indeed marksmen. So if they said they wounded the shooter was wounded. However, Mr. Santos was wounded. But I'm not going to play a short clip of him saying he was wounded. From this point forward, I'll just play his entire testimony about that night, followed by a reading of the written confessions he's provided in the past.
From October of 13.
I be that more you gon' remember, be more. I be that more you gon' remember, that town. I be that more you gon' remember, Tahaka Bay front line till the law call my number. I be that more you gon' remember, LA. I be that more you gon' remember, New York. I be that more you gon' remember, Tahaka Bay front line till the law call my number. Peace and love, family. Welcome to another edition of Morse World TV. I am your host, Brother Tahaka Bay. Family, I want you to share this at least 2 times. I know we have a lot of fun on this platform. I know we out a lot of frauds on this platform. And I know we say a lot of jokes and get real witty on this platform. Tonight, that's not what we're doing. Tonight, what we need to do is we need to make sure that we spread this far and wide. If I was going to show the complete confession of a K-Fos, if you will, if one existed, it'll be a 200 or 300 people in here. However, if I start talking about Imam Jamil, it's slow to get people to come to listen, to see exactly what we're talking about. But what we're talking about here tonight is not only do we have a giant in our community that's on the show tonight, Bilal, Sunni Ali, but also this is a giant, enormous task that we all should embark on, getting the truth out as it relates to Brother Jamil. But let me, without no further ado, let me allow my guest to introduce himself to you for the first time. Brother Bilal, are you there, brother? Sound like he's having a little bit technical difficulties. Every single time. Every single time. Man, that means something else, ain't it? That means something else. Come on, man. Come on, man. That's what he doing for real. See, family, this is why when we start talking about unity, one of the things where we need to really consider when we start talking about unity is start talking about how we can unify our dollars to get our own. And you know, we need cloud technicians to build our own clouds. That way we won't get caught up in these people clouds. Mm-hmm. Are you there, brother?
Yes, I'm here. You can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you well, brother. If you will, could you give people, could you give the people that may not know who you are, and I don't want you to hold back, tell a little about yourself, your accolades, because you have so many of them, it'll take a whole show for that. But I would like the people to know exactly who they are listening to tonight. So I'll yield the floor to you, my brother, that you may tell the people a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go in after that and talk about how the imam finds himself up against the oppressors in such a way that it shouldn't be happening in this day and time. So the floor is yours, brother.
Misleading and being misled. Seek refuge in law against betrayal and being betrayed to others. I ask God my heart and to God my tongue that I may something to benefit to you and your listeners. My name is Bilal Sunni Ali. I'm the Emir. That's which means an administrative. I'm the Emir of the Imam Jamil Action Network. And the Action Network is an arm of the campaign to free Imam Jamil. We say it's not the legal arm, it's the advocacy arm. The lawyers have the job of going into the court and presenting the evidence. Myself and the Imam Jamil Action Network, we have the job of going to the street, of going to the people, informing them of what the lawyers are doing, and informing them of what's going on on a continuous basis with our Emir, with Imam Jamil Al-Amin. Jamil Abdullah Al-Amin is he's the Emir of a network of mosques and communities throughout North America and the Caribbean, and even in Africa and Europe. He is at this time, and I'm serving as his servant in getting this word out. I've been continuously involved in the work around advocacy for political prisoners since I was about 18, and inshallah I'll be 73 next month. So it's been a work of over 50 years that I've been an advocate on behalf of political prisoners. And this is not the first time that I've served to advocate on behalf of Imam Jamil Al-Amin. I was an advocate for him when he was known as H. Rap Brown during the turbulent 60s, when he was one of the most eloquent speakers, clear speaking people. You know, the term rap was always applied to if you could say something with the shortest amount of words with the most meaning. And he did that all his life. That's why he had the nickname rap from the time he was a young man. He had that nickname long before the genre of music developed in the industry that's known as rap. He was rap. In fact, he says that's where it all comes from. You know, they give an honor to him when they call that genre of entertainment rap. As Woo! He says, if you're sweating and stragging like all them claim, how come the game ain't in their name? So that's what he says, and that's what we say, that he's the rap. He has a book out called Revolution by the Book. Subtitle is The Rap is Alive. And so we're like I said, it's not the first time I've been an advocate on his behalf. You mentioned when we were, before we came on the air, about the case in Cambridge, Maryland, where we can say that's where a lot of it started. The entities got together, the federal government, the government of the state of Maryland, the District of Columbia, the Commonwealth of Virginia, and the federal government all conspired against this brother to charge him with arson for the burning down school in Cambridge, Maryland, a school building that had burnt twice before he even came to Cambridge, Maryland. And as he says, people don't cause riots. People don't cause rebellions. Conditions caused rebellions. And he said, if the things that he was saying were not true, the people would have laughed him off the stage. But what happened? He was shot at that night. That gathering was broken up by the fact that some policemen shot at him, and the crowd dispersed. And he was able to get away from that crowd. But as he attempted to leave the area, being in the terrain of he lived in Washington, D.C., so he had to go to Washington, D.C. to pack up and get his bags. So then he had to go to the Commonwealth of Virginia, the state of Virginia, in order to catch a plane, because he was going back home to Baton Rouge. So they had set it up where they charged him with interstate flight to avoid persecution. They say prosecution. I say it was interstate flight to avoid persecution. But he was not trying to avoid any persecution because he didn't even know that he had been charged. They charged him secretly, and then they created an indictment secretly, and then they charged him with interstate flight for going through those three jurisdictions: Maryland, District of Columbia, and Commonwealth of Virginia. And then the federal government charged him with flying on an airline with a weapon. He declared that he had the weapon, and there was nothing wrong. There was no breaking of no laws at all when he was in the when he was flying with the weapon, when he packed it and declared it. But the law, they said, was broken in the fact that he was under indictment. So it is against the law to fly on an airline with a weapon if you're under indictment. But the fact is that there was no way for him to know, and the whole thing was just a trap, with those entities that I mentioned, including the federal government, had created that trap so that they could get the picture out there that he was somebody that was being arrested for violent crimes, and that he was carrying a gun, and so that's what happened, and that's what a lot of people remember. So you have a lot of people who remember the name H. Rap Brown, but don't know the details of what happened. They know, oh yeah, he's always the one that was getting arrested over and over for gun charges. Yeah, it was a gun charge. It was a gun charge that was perfectly legal, except for the fact that they indicted him secretly, which made it illegal. But that was after the fact. So that was a setup, and most people don't remember the details. Most people read headlines or hear headlines, and then they go on with the day, and the details are never known. We had a forum about 2 years ago called Relearning H. Brown, and we have some of that material on our website, www.imamjamilactionnetwork.org. You can go to that website and you can see the forum that we held concerning learning the history about H. Brown, and that actual forum, which was held 2 years ago in 2018, will be available on our website soon as well.
Indeed. I want to make sure that everybody get access to the website. So I'm posting the website now. If you want to check it out after the show, I also put it in the comment section. So brother, let's get to a little bit about yourself before we get to my brother, because I definitely like to give our family, as they say, give you your flowers now, brother. Can you give us a little bit about the history about you, in the role that you have played, or the role that you have lived in, or what you have done throughout your life as it relates to your contribution? I know that this is a major contribution, and before this interview, just briefing myself, I'm finding out that you was on stage with Richard Pryor. I'm finding out that you was a saxophonist, or continues to be a saxophonist, a musician. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, bro?
Yes, well, I guess the most famous thing that people know about me, that some people know about me, is that I was featured saxophonist and flautist with Gil Scott-Heron, Brian Jackson in the Midnight Band. You may have some listening audience who don't know them either, who never heard of Gil Scott-Heron or Brian Jackson or the Midnight Band. At that time, I was the featured soloist, and I was known as the spirit of the Midnight Band. Gil Scott-Heron was a prolific poet, novelist, and songwriter, singer and songwriter, and he was a college professor who was involved in we used records in order to get the word out, get the truth out about people. Him being a college professor, he knew the lack of reading that our people do. So even as a college professor, he was able to understand that a lot of Black people don't read things, and a lot of them will get things through listening to music. So it was that's the avenue that we both embarked on, was to sell package consciousness and create packages of consciousness on wax. When we say on wax, that's what we come from an era where we actually made records that were wax records, and those so that's what we say. It's consciousness on wax. I guess they would say it's digital consciousness in this digital world. But we created songs and people continue to struggle for self-determination and to continue and to always heighten the struggle for self-determination. And by creating it through a music venue, we created areas where people could come in and actually have discussions and have sessions around issues of liberation that were, it was like a safe zone, even though everybody knows what music was about. But if people come to a concert They would know they'd know the end of the concert. They would know about the worldwide struggle for African people's liberation, and they would know about different stages that we were involved in it, because we presented the news as it was taking place. We presented issues from Africa, issues from the Caribbean, and we, just like we presented the music and the rhythms, we presented those issues that were live to us and live to our people during that time. I was when I joined Brian Jackson in the Midnight Band, I had been an avid fan of another brother that people need to know about. That's Oscar Brown Jr. I was actually raised on Oscar Brown Jr. So I'd say to your listening audience, if you don't know who Oscar Brown Jr. is, Google him and get to know it. If you Google him now, you'll be singing his music all night. Yeah. So I was also fortunate enough to be a student and study improvisational music. I Dr. U.T. was not only not close friend, also business partners with John Coltrane and master drummer Babatunde Olatunji. They opened up a cultural center, one of the first cults in this time period, on 125th Street in Harlem. And they opened up that cultural center, which not only presented the music, but also taught African music, taught African drumming, taught African sewing, cooking, languages, and etc. So it was a step toward our people beginning to practice, not just talk about practicing, but the center was a way where people could be introduced intimately and integrally to the Africa and Africa.
Breaking up a little bit, but that's all right. We're gonna let that stop.
Okay.
You good now? I think you're good now. Actually, I was showing a picture of John Coltrane in his album, John Coltrane.
Okay, and I see it.
But you carry on, brother.
Okay, I was just going to add that, besides music, I've been involved in the political struggle almost pretty much before my birth. I was destined to be involved in it because it was all in my household before I was born. My parents and my uncles and aunts were part of the UNIA, the movement. My uncle, Stanley Davis, was actually a lieutenant of the United Negro Improvement Association, African Communities League, and he served on behalf of that formation. He served a great deal of time in Liberia, West Africa, working on the project of getting rubber trees toward building an economy that our people could rely on. So I remember him returning from Africa in the early, in my early years. I remember that, and remember him talking about the struggle in Africa. So, like I said, I was destined to do the work I'm doing because that was all I heard. When I learned to talk, I was talking revolutionary black nationalism.
Yes, sir. That's what I love to hear, brother. And I gotta ask you a question. How do you feel about revolutionary black nationalism today? How do you feel about it? You know, at the state of affairs that we see going on in the world, do you feel good about it? Is it hope? Do we need to do better? I know we always can do better, but from your perspective, Baba, what do you think, brother?
I think that to understand that when we talk about revolutionary black nationalism, we're just not talking about being black and being proud to be black and doing things with each other because we're black. It's a critical issue. Like Imam Jamil often says, to be black is necessary, but it's not sufficient. So we have to qualify. You're going to be black anyway, but you have to qualify your being black, and that you take a critical stand. You take a critical stand on issues. So you don't excuse a slumlord because he's black. As a revolutionary black nationalist, you accept him because he's black, but you put him to the critical issue of what is he doing for black people. Not that he's black, and that's not what makes you a revolutionary black nationalist. Not that you're black, but that you are doing revolutionary things to bring about a revolutionary change in the lives of black people. And I think that's what's going about. We'll be dealing with that largely at the upcoming Juneteenth celebrations, where we'll be presenting one of our attorneys, Attorney Musa Danfodio, who is the Counsel General for the Working Group for the UN-declared International Decade for People of African Descent. He's also the legal advisor to Imam Jamil Al-Amin on issues of international human rights law, and he will be making a presentation on political prisoners and international human rights law, and he'll also be discussing some of the steps that are being taken throughout the world. As it now stands, we know that some of us have been parts of different nations, like you yourself with the Moorish nation, and we had a conference that Attorney Musa Danfodio convened back in September 2017, where members of the Moorish Science Temple were at the conference, as well as the Nation of Islam, members of the Lost Found Nation of Islam, representatives from the African Methodist Episcopal Church. There were representatives there from various bands of indigenous nations, such as the Choctaw, the Wachita, the Chippewa, the Chickasaw, and there was also we were representing, when I said meaning the national community under the leadership of Imam Jamil Al-Amin. And so with that gathering, what was talked about and what was made clear, that we can all be members of the nation that we are of, but form a nation in which we can participate in some of the world forums, but giving up anything with citizenship and our participation in the national group that we belong to. We can develop a level mission that would represent us in, for instance, in the African Union. African Union has set aside an area, the sixth region, as diaspora, those who live outside of the continent of Africa, still involved with the African Union. Although the organization here in the Western Hemisphere, we can be involved with that international. To step out of the realm of that we can only participate in the world. identifying as
Brother,
citizens of the United States
bye.
captive.
Let me see. I think, Brother Bilal, can I see if I can try to call you? Could you give us some critical information? It's cracking very, very bad. And I don't want anyone to miss this. Can you come out and I try to call you and see if we can get it on audio?
Okay, so you want me to step out and wait for your call?
I'm gonna call you right now. All right, brother.
Okay.
I don't want anybody to miss this information.
Okay.
All right, 1 second. So bear with me, family. This is some real critical information. I mean, I'm a student of history, and we have living history right here, and I don't want to miss much of it. I know you don't. I'm learning with you right now in real time. So give me 1 second. Let me call the brother up, because this is monumental right here for Moorish World TV. I know y'all may like some of the other stuff, but this is what I like right here. You know what I mean? True revolutionaries.
Yeah.
Okay, brother, you sound clear. Could you take us back a few more paces? Let me make sure the people press one if y'all can hear Baba Bilal. But can you take us back just a few paces of what you were saying so we can be caught up?
Yeah, I was talking about the I could begin with saying that we were planning to have at the upcoming Juneteenth.
There you go. Yes.
At the upcoming Juneteenth celebrations in Atlanta, which will be at Centennial Park, June 18th, 19th, and 20th. The Imam Jamil Action Network plans to present a group of speakers and a group of entertainers. Chiefly amongst those speakers will be Attorney Musa Danfodio. Attorney Musa Danfodio is both the Counsel General for the Working Group for the United Nations declared International Decade for People of African Descent. And this story is important to present at Juneteenth because, as you know, in the story of Juneteenth, there was a proclamation. The Emancipation Proclamation was issued, and those who it pertained to were not informed of it. Many were not informed of it till years later. And so this is now, right in this day and time, the United Nations Commission on Human Rights has declared a decade to be internationally recognized, a decade from January 1st, 2015 to December 31st, 2024. That decade is to be known as the International Decade for People of African Descent. And so Attorney Musa Danfodio will be speaking, representing that. And he's also the legal advisor to Imam Jamil Al-Amin, formerly known as H. Brown. He's the Imam's legal advisor on issues of international human rights law. Back in one of the early gatherings under the UN declared Decade for People of African Descent was a conference that was held in Jackson, Mississippi in September of 2017. That conference was called the First Conference on Confederation and Human Rights Remedies. Present at that conference were members of the Moorish Science Temple from various temples within the Moorish Science Temple, within the Moorish movement, also members of the Nation of Islam under Minister Louis Farrakhan, also members of the Lost Found Nation of Islam under Minister Silas Muhammad. There were also representatives there like myself who represented the national community under the leadership of Imam Jamil Al-Amin. There were also members there who represented the African Methodist Episcopal Church. And also that there were also members and representatives of various bands of indigenous nations, such as the Washita, the Cherokee, the Chickasaw, the Chippewa, the Choctaw, and the Seminole. Were all represented in this conference. And what was being expressed and understood was that you could be a citizen of a nation, just like a lot of people see ourselves as citizens of the nation within a nation because we have bought national formations that are within the United States of America. But what that conference was doing was showing us that we can maintain our citizenship and our good standing within those national formations, as well as be a part of a new formation of nationhood for us under the diaspora region, as set aside by the African Union, which is a formation of African nations made up of 65 nations on the African continent, who automatically recognize our nationhood and recognize our nationhood status. So when we took that step at that conference, many of us signed a declaration of self-determination. And that declaration of self-determination will be made, I can make it available to you and your listening audience, but it will be made available once again to the public at large at the upcoming Juneteenth celebrations in Atlanta. And what is going on now is that in the UK, brothers and sisters have moved to establish an executive branch of what's being titled the African Diaspora State. They're forming an executive branch, and Attorney Musa Danfodio himself is involved with forming a judicial branch of the African Diaspora State. And we have a tribunal come up, which I hadn't mentioned yet, but we have a tribunal coming up in October 22nd to 24th in this year, 2021. It'll be held in New York under the auspices of the United Nations Commission on Human Rights. And one of the things that's being done at that forum of the tribunal is that a legislative branch of that African diasporic state is being established now. So this is an entity that we can all belong to, regardless of what we already belong to. That is already recognized. It's already given recognition by 65 African nations on the African continent. And so we're moving to involve ourselves with that. Plus, you'll be telling people how we can organize ourselves to be involved with the Organization of American States, which is an organization of the various state governments that are here in the Western Hemisphere, and also an organization which I was surprised and happy to find out about, which is the second largest international body in the world, and it's called the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. So Attorney Musa Danfodio will be addressing the crowd on these various issues, these very important issues for our movement to self-determination, to move forward, and for us to stay in unity and build more bonds of unity as we move forward in this struggle.
Do you know what's amazing, Brother Bilal? What's amazing is what you just laid out to us is true revolutionary, or what my brother Akhenaten always say, resolutionary, which is basically interchangeable, bringing resolution through revolution and bringing revolution through resolution. Amazing, brother, that and on this channel here, we discuss a lot of the counter revolutionary, and some people say that counter revolutionary is going against one another or going against this and that, but I think the ultimate counter revolutionary practices is those who are not putting things in place that's instrumental to get us up out of this situation. We've been going at each other since we were drives, but putting things in place is super instrumental. And brother, I'm honored to have you here today. I'm going to let stand by. I want my brother Akhenaten. I gave him the link so he can chime in because when you were talking, that's all I was thinking about was what he always say, remorse resolutionary. So let him chime in real quick, and then we're going to go right back to talk about our brother Imam Jamil in one moment. So brother Akhenaten, take the floor for a second, brother. What do you think, brother?
Islam, first as always, we rise, give praise to Allah, the great God of the universe. Honors to his prophet, Noble Jew Ali. Honors to his forerunner, the Honorable Marcus Garvey. Honors to all the true and divine prophets. And honors to you, Grand Sheikh. And of course, Baba, Bilal, Sunni, Ali. I don't really want to say nothing. I'm telling you, every time I hear Baba Bilal, I'm like sitting at his feet. I had the opportunity, Grand Sheikh, to literally be under his tutelage in many different ways. And I'm just excited about that you have him on this platform so people can know the real work of revolutionaries, and as you said, resolutionaries. This brother is bringing resolution. We're not just talking. It's not about, a lot of times people associate revolution only with raising arms, having guns and, parading in the street. But we're talking to a real revolutionary who hits all angles that we need to free and liberate our people. And we need to highlight this brother that he's so affectionately bringing to us about his story, because we don't really know about. When I go around, a lot of people, we say Imam Jamil, but when we talk about H. Brown, some people connect because they understand a little bit of the civil rights history. But I want Baba Bilal to go in and talk about H. Brown and then his transition into Imam Jamil, and then also some more of Baba Bilal. He's being humble, Grand Sheikh. I know. He's talking about all these activities that he's doing present because this is what he wants us to really focus on. But I really hope you go back into Baba Bilal talking about his own story, as well as, we talk about real revolutionary. He has a revolutionary love, honors to his wife, who's an ancestor now, but was serious warrior back in the days that many of us don't even know about the real story of Assata Shakur. We kind of got a drift of it because of Tupac Shakur, but it's a whole history in that. And I'm so glad you started off talking about that history. So I'm going to just give the floor. I'll come back in a little later on. I want to hear from Baba.
And let me give as we get to Brother Bilal, I want to give a big shout out to my brother Amin Muhammad. Send him my salams. Me and him come up from the mud together. I mean, from the mud together. Got to give him a strong salam to that brother, who really, when I put the book out there, I might have to mention him too, because this brother here, man, I'm so proud of this brother, and I know that he's proud of me. We come from the real mud that we don't talk about on this channel, but you will know about my life, as well as brothers like Amin, Muhammad, my brother Malik, and many other brothers that come from the mud with me. I also want to give a big shout out to my brother Big Wolf, who just took his Shahada. Yes, brother Akhenaten, he took his Shahada, and he's officially Muslim now. He's still working in the streets. He's still doing the things that need to be done here in Baltimore, but I got to give a big shout out to him. I got to. With that being said, man, I'm just feeling so good. Brother Bilal, let's take it back to the time when they knew Imam Jamil as H. Rap Brown. You briefly touched on it, but as Brother Akhenaten had mentioned that H. Rap Brown, he was known as one who could formulate thoughts with small phrases or words, or with strong, meaningful, powerful thoughts and small phrases or sentences like that. I remember many people, especially Dr. Khalid Muhammad, had mentioned one time that, like H. Rap Brown, if America don't turn around, I'm going to burn it down. And I think that that speech, even though he wasn't even in Cambridge at the time, gave the authorities the ability to try to harass and ultimately put him under the microscope. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, at that time that we're talking about, H. Rap Brown had been he had been the state chairman for the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. He was state chairman for the state of Alabama. And as such, they organized independent political organization. In fact, the first organization to use the Black Panther emblem and the Black Panther slogan, and to be actually called as the Black Panther Party, was the Lowndes County Freedom Organization, which was started by H. Rap Brown and his role as chairman for the state of Alabama. He was involved in voter education and voter registration back during a time when voter suppression is a term that we often hear now. And we hear voter suppression as they're talking about people passing laws to keep us from voting. But during this time, I'm talking about the early and mid 1960s, voter suppression meant that they would firebomb your house. It meant that they would shoot you, that they would kill you, or kill members of your family, or maim members of your family. There was actually a governor, I believe Governor Wallace, who was the governor of Alabama at that time, actually put out a call to the white vigilantes and just like the former president did, call on those elements who get out there and do something. He called on those elements to kill someone. He said, if we don't kill some of these niggas, this is what the governor of the state of Alabama said, we don't kill some of these niggas, they're going to continue to register vote and they're going to vote us out of power. Y'all got to kill some of them niggas. Following which a young brother named Jamil Lee Jackson was shot to show the governor that they understood what he was calling for, and so they killed Jamil Lee. It was at Jamil Lee Jackson's funeral, in which brother Mukasa Dada, also known as Willie Ricks, said that he was tired of funerals and that we needed black power. And then the next day is that echoed that terminology, black power, which was being discussed, that got put on the lips of many of our people throughout the South and throughout the whole country. So this time, when we were being under the attack, under the physical attack, H. Rap Brown and Brother Wendell Paris, another snake member, and Brother Kwame Ture, who was then known as Stokely Carmichael, they organized self-defense teams, and they shot back at the Klan. They shot back and drove the Klan back in the backwoods of rural rural Alabama. They also did this in the backwoods of rural Mississippi and in the backwoods of rural Georgia. They formed a resistance that kicked open the door, that made our people feel safe to go and register and vote. I dare say that we would not have the amount of Black people voting today that we have, and had it not been for that effort, and everyone to be lauded for whatever efforts they did, but that was the single most important effort that allowed our people to see we could take part in the struggle for our self-determination, and that we could take part and that we would be protected when we went to register to vote. Because as I said, they were killing people just for registering to vote. They were killing people just for going to the meetings where you would hear about people talk about the need for us to become involved in the voting apparatus in this country, and then how we could use the vote to protect our communities, and which was what was done. And at that time, people understood that voting was a part of a long-term strategy that was for protecting what we had established. So this is the work of H. Brown during those years, and we say it's quite ironic and quite an act of betrayal for Paul Howard, who was the first Black elected district attorney in the history of the United States. I think my research serves me correct when I make that statement. If he wasn't the very first, he was one of the first. Matter of fact, he was one of the first elected district attorneys, because prior to that, district attorney position had been an appointed position. So to have a Black person elected to be in charge of prosecuting people, and then he turns around and fails to prosecute the person who was involved in the shooting incident in our neighborhood, in which a sheriff deputy was killed. I mean, 2 law enforcement people were involved. One was killed, the other one was severely wounded. And the federal government said that H. Brown did it. Again, another trap, another lie, just like the lie that was told back in 1967 in Cambridge, Maryland. The brother who was involved in the shooting, whose name was Otis Jackson, confessed within 12 hours of the shooting. They didn't take Imam Jamil into custody until 4 days later. Because one thing I wanted to explain, that June 16th, 2000 was the eve of the Eid al-Adha. The Eid al-Adha is the biggest. It's the most important day. It's more important than the Eid at the end of Ramadan. This is the Eid of sacrifice, and so it's the Eid of sacrifice. And he was going to Alabama to preside over the prayers and the celebration that was going to take place in a newly formed community of ours in Whitehall, Alabama. And that was his reason for going to Alabama. That's why he went to Alabama. When, after the 3 days of the festival was over, is when he was taken into custody. There had already been a confession, and a lot of people felt, well, since the person confessed, they're just going to take him into custody, and then they're going to take him into custody, but they're going to let him go because we already got a confession. 21 years later, this brother who has confessed has not has been brought to Fulton County to stand trial or to testify to the truth of him saying that he's the one that was involved in the shooting. He fits the description to a T that the sheriff deputy, Richie Kinchen, who lost his life that night, he fits the description that Deputy Ricky Kinchen gave. He also fits the description that Deputy Algernon English gave. And both deputies said that they shot and was sure that they had shot their assailant. Imam Jamil was not shot. However, this other young man, Otis Jackson, also known as James Santos, was shot that night. And in spite of that, in spite of the police going to his house and finding the caliber weapon that was used and finding the bloody clothes that he had to remove, they did not arrest him. They did not arrest him for 8 days. And when he made created a signed affidavit, a sworn affidavit, which was submitted to the FBI upon his being taken into custody. And none of that was brought forth in this trial. And like I said, like early in the thing, I said I seek refuge against betrayal and being betrayed into ignorance. And I can't think of no other higher form of betrayal than for the man, Paul Howard, to be such a coward that he would actually stand and call for the death penalty for our brother, Imam Jamil Al-Amin, and say that he did not want to hear from, he did not even want to hear from the person who actually did the shooting and confessed to the shooting.
Wow.
So
wow.
That's the story. And a lot of times I stop right there because I get full right there, because this is what we're dealing with. People forget who H. Rap Brown was. People didn't know. People didn't get a chance to know who H. Rap Brown was when H. Rap Brown was making the moves that he was making. When he was known, he was known for saying, violence is as American as cherry pie.
Yeah.
When he said that, the authorities claimed that he was calling on our population to be violent. But he was expressing the violence that he had faced, and overcame. He not only faced violence, but he put together a group of brothers and sisters who overcome that violence. And they overcome that violence by carrying guns and shooting back at the Ku Klux Klan and other elements of lawlessness in the Black Belt South. So that's H. Rap Brown. That's H. Rap Brown back in the day, and to bring it right up to the present, where he is now in the community in which our mosque is. He transformed that community. Him and the group of brothers who started that community some 40 years ago, they transformed that community from being a haven for drug activity, for being a haven for criminal activity, for being a center of other criminal activity that goes along with drug trafficking, such as prostitution, breaking and entry, and armed robberies, street muggings. All of that was cooled out by the development of the Islamic community, the Muslim community in the West End of Atlanta, which many people benefit by. Many people, it was done by Muslims, but it wasn't just done for Muslims, it was done so everybody could feel safe. And you have a lot of people who feel safe. Even our former ambassador, Andrew Young, said that when his niece was going to Spelman, he was walking around telling people that he was looking for a place for his niece to reside, and he wanted to make sure that she could reside in a safe place. And the people told him, well, he ain't got nothing to worry about. They said, because your old friend is the imam in the mosque right down the street. And there ain't nothing going to happen to your niece around here. Ain't nothing going to happen to nobody around here, because these brothers keep it safe. And so that's been the story. It's always that they try to associate him with violence, but if you talk to the people on the street who deal with him, they associate his presence with stopping violence. They associate his presence with keeping things safe in the community.
To speak on that, brother, I was following up, just briefing myself, and I've heard many of stories, but I wanted to brief myself, and I was reading stories of how the imam was getting the drug dealers out of the community to get them to move on without deadly force or out deadly confrontation, getting the prostitution out of the West End and getting the neighborhood cleaned up in that fashion. I mean, this is what I read now. But if you have a first-hand account, how was that possible that he gained the respect of? Because, you know, to get drug dealing out of your community, you mess with somebody's dinner table. You know what I'm saying? But I've never found anything where there was conflict, where there was bloodshed, where it seemed like a mutual respect and things was getting cleaned up pretty rapidly in the West End. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, we can go back to, you may remember there was a movement called the H. Brown Anti-Dope Brigades, where that was part of the Revolutionary Nationalist movement, was to meet with people involved in the drug traffic and talk to them about how do you turn your personal economy around, how do you turn your personal finances around and turn your life around so that you serve the community. And if you are considered as a leader you can still be a leader, but if you turn your life around, you can now be a leader of righteousness and have the same following of people now doing things right who followed you doing things wrong. And that was a program that he was involved in. In fact, we named it after him even before he became Muslim. And that program continued and became the linchpin of the communities as we developed a community where we say it's a line of integrity. You have territorial integrity wherever you have a community mosque. You know that there'll be just like they have signs around the schools saying, nobody should be caught selling drugs or peddling drugs or using drugs within a certain feet of a public school building. And that's what it is for community mosques and for other institutions, mosques, churches, synagogues, temples, whatever that adhere to that same standard of not allowing drug trafficking to take place right in the same proximity where our children are going to school, where our children are playing, not allow for the gunplay to take place in these same areas where our children and our families are, where that, like I said, that park, which once was known as a place where people could come and get drugs, but it was unsafe to be around there. Now that park is a zone of safety that people can rely on. Many of the sisters who used to be prostitutes, many of them took their shahada. Many of the brothers who were dealing drugs and were involved in all types of illicit activity took their shahada and turned their life around, and then began working for the betterment of the community. Where now you have whole formations of, like, literally the Almighty Vice Lord Nation. They came to Atlanta to make their declaration of no longer being a criminal organization, but being a community building organization. So this is a movement that was started before he became Muslim, and when he became Muslim, it grew by leaps and bounds.
Amazing, brother. So when we get, let's bounce into the trial a little bit. Somebody did leave a comment on the comment section. What literally happened in the trial to allow them to perpetuate the lie and get a conviction. How did that work?
Well, one of the things that they have that a lot of people are not aware of is an anonymous jury.
Hold up, brother. Let me inform you. We're talking about our brother Imam Jamil, also known as Rap Brown, Rap Brown. I'm very familiar with the brother because obviously I'm from Maryland, and the big story of Cambridge, Maryland, where the saying goes, if America don't turn around, we'll burn down. And in fact, he wasn't even there at the time. He was somewhere else, but he still had to face the music that these powers that be tried to play. Years later, after building up and cleaning up the West End and putting the Muslim community there that made it safe for all people, not only proclaimed and practicing Muslims, they sought to get after him again. And at this point, after they falsely accused him for a crime that he didn't commit, and obviously he didn't commit because there's a written confession. We're going to read that momentarily because we're going to bounce back and forth. But I wanted to just update you real quick on what we're talking about. But back to my question to Brother Bilal, what happened in the trial to give them the ability to convict? And this is the first time that I'm hearing about an anonymous jury. What is that before you get into the details?
Okay, an anonymous jury is just like it sounds. You have 12 people picked as the jurors. You have 6 alternates. So you have 18 people who are sitting there in the courtroom who everybody is identified. The judge, you know the judge's name. The judge was named Stephanie Manners, and the prosecutor name was Robert McBurney. And you know the defendant, of course, was Imam Jamil Al-Amin, and his lawyers were known. You know, Attorney Martin, Attorney Michael Warren. They were known, but the names of the members of the jury are still not known to this very day.
Wow! An
anonymous jury is who tried him. So we don't know who tried him, who made that decision, who they were announcing the decision, because their names were withheld from the public, and those names were never divulged to the public. So that's one way that they go about when they pick a jury, and in trials where the jury is anonymous, they tell the people in the jury that their names will be withheld. And that gives the jury members the impression that the person who they are trying is already guilty and already dangerous, so dangerous that you can't even divulge the names of the members of the jury.
Wow!
So that takes the jury right away.
What?
So you have that, and it's legal. I have been tried by an anonymous jury. And what happened was that there was just so many factors that showed to police misconduct and to government misconduct in the case that I was acquitted, even by an anonymous jury. The facts were so glaring. But in the case of Imam Jamil Al-Amin, formerly known as Rap Brown, a lot of the facts weren't allowed to get into. They constantly, as you may hear from the attorney Kyrie AlAmin, who is Imam Jamil Al-Amin's son, explain when he's talking about the person he's talking about the person who confessed to the crimes in the matter. He was not allowed to testify. He was not even called, and what they told lies to the defense attorneys that he was unstable. So a lawyer will never put a person on the stand. They're not going to call somebody to the stand if they understand that the person is mentally unstable. And so he was never called to the stand because of the way he was painted was actually a deliberate lie to keep the defense from calling on him. And so we even had the defense, we even sent an investigator to speak with him. And he was being held in Miami. And the investigator went to the jail in Miami to speak with him. And that he had an interview with James Santos, also known as Otis Jackson, on the one day, and on the next day when he went back, and he stayed in a hotel overnight, and the next day when he went back to speak with Otis Jackson, he was told that no Otis Jackson was in the prison. So they kept Otis Jackson, the person who confessed, from being in contact with the defense attorneys. But he was determined. Every time he got a chance to say it, he would say it. I even got a call one day, and he was in prison in Miami, and he called me. He found my phone number and called me to tell me that he was that he wanted to just make things right. That Imam Jamil shouldn't be serving time for something that he didn't do, and he was trying to let the world know that him, Otis Jackson, is the person responsible, and that he's willing to face the issue squarely and to serve that time, and that they should let Imam Jamil go. So even though we were getting direct messages from him when we could get them, when we would try to set up interviews by having an investigator for the defense team visit him, and so we could get the whole story, so that when we bring him on the stand, we would have the whole story and know that. But like I said, no attorney is going to bring somebody who you don't know what they're capable of or what their level is. But now he's been evaluated by a clinical scientist who deals with testimony. He's what is called an expert on people who give testimony to see if their story is consistent with their values that they express, and with the values that are consistent with their lifestyle that they've adopted. And he was cleared. This brother Otis Jackson, James Santos, he was cleared by after a clinical evaluation, and he gave testimony in a courtroom in October 2017, and that confession, that testimony was caught on video by court TV. And like we say, man plans and Allah plans. Surely Allah is the best of planners, because by the brother's persistence, he was able to now have his testimony on TV, and it gets played. It's been played on the BBC in England. It's been played by Al Jazeera throughout the world. People have seen that people have seen the testimony of the person who is responsible for the killing of the sheriff deputy and the wounding of another sheriff deputy. I mean, these are brothers who served the community, who lived in our community. They are part of our community. It's a gross disservice to the sheriff's department for them to keep somebody who's responsible for killing a sheriff deputy and for wounding another sheriff deputy, to the sheriff's department and to the families of those sheriff deputies, to continue to hold a man in jail after 21 years who they know didn't do it.
Indeed, brother. Let's pause for a second. Let me see if I can load up this video and let the grab a sip of water. Give me 1 second. I want to see if I can fast forward to brother Otis real quick. Give me 1 second.
Do those states.
To let the Conviction Integrity Unit, the Fulton County District Attorney's Office, and Mr. Paul Howard know that we're paying attention and we demand fairness and justice in this matter. As always, it's free, Imam Jamil, and I'm going to leave you with a reading of an article about the confessions, which will give you some more detailed insight into what he's been saying for the last 20 years. This man deserves to be heard. He just doesn't want the Imam to be taking the fall for a murder that he committed. It's that simple. Otis Jackson is a self-proclaimed leader of the almighty Vice Lords Nation. Founded in the late 1950s, the AVLN is one of the oldest street gangs in Chicago. According to Jackson, the group under his leadership was focused on rebuilding communities by pushing out drug dealers and violence. In a never-before-published sworn deposition, Jackson recalls the events of the night of Thursday, March 16, 2000 in vivid detail. It was a cool night, as Jackson remembers. He wore a knee-high black Islamic thobe with black pants, a black kufi, Muslim head covering, underneath a tan hat, and a tan leather jacket. His silver sunglasses with yellow tint sat above his full beard and mustache. He arrived at Mix around 7 p.m. when he realized his schedule had changed. He was no longer the food expediter in the kitchen. His title was now dishwasher cook, which meant he would wash dishes and then help close the kitchen at night. Since his title changed, he wasn't required to work that Thursday night. It immediately dawned on him that he had a 10-hour window to do whatever he wanted. As a parolee under house arrest, the opportunity to have truly free time was rare if it ever even existed. Jackson decided to fill his newfound freedom like most people fill their free time. He ran a few errands. His first stop was the West End Mall, where he got a bite to eat, did some shopping, and then headed toward the West End Community Mosque, led by AlAmin. He knew it was a regular building off of Oak Street, but wasn't sure which one exactly. He parked his black Cadillac in an open field and walked down toward a house that turned out to be the mosque. He passed the black Mercedes before he got to the mosque, where he met a man named Lamar Mustafa Tanner. They talked for a while, during which Jackson explained to Tanner that he was looking for AlAmin to talk about how the AVLN could help AlAmin's community. Tanner told Jackson to check the grocery store, since AlAmin could usually be found there. Tanner then gave Jackson his phone number and hurried away to go pick up his wife. Jackson proceeded to the grocery store. He wanted to discuss with AlAmin how his AVLN group could help further clean the streets of drug dealers in the West End community. By the time Jackson made his way to AlAmin's store, it was already late. He was afraid the store would be closed since he didn't see anyone else on the street. His fear was affirmed. The store wasn't open. Hoping that maybe the owner would be in the back closing up, he knocked on the door a few more times. No answer. As he turned to leave, Jackson saw a patrol car pull up. By the time Jackson walked by the black Mercedes, the patrol car was parked in front of it, nose to nose. The driver of the patrol car got out and asked Jackson to put his hands up. Immediately, the scenario flashed through Jackson's head. Here he was, violating his parole by not being at work with a 9mm handgun in his waist. Jackson was afraid the cops would think he was breaking into the store. That meant they would probably frisk him and find the gun. The gun would be a direct violation of his parole, and he'd be sent back to prison in Nevada. Jackson ignored the order to put his hands up and instead began to explain that he was not trying to break into the store. He stated that he wasn't trying to steal the Mercedes either. His car was parked down the street. Both officers were out of the car with guns drawn and demanding Jackson put his hands up. The cops were closing in, and there was little space between them. Jackson made a quick decision. He backed up against the Mercedes, pulled out his gun, and began to fire. He fired off 2 shots. The officers, while retreating, returned fire. Jackson wasn't hit and bolted toward his car, where in the trunk he had an arsenal of other weapons. As Jackson explained, the organization I was about to form, the Almighty Vice Lord Nation, were anti-oppression, and we fight, drug dealers and whatnot, so we need artillery. He quickly opened the trunk. The lock was broken and held together with shoestring, and grabbed a lightweight semi-automatic carbine Ruger Mini 14 with an extended clip housing .40 caliber rounds. housing 40 .223 caliber rounds. Jackson then headed back toward the cops. One was moving for cover behind the Mercedes, the other on the police radio screaming for backup. Jackson approached the officer he thought was the most aggressive, who was using the Mercedes for cover and resumed firing his rifle. The officer returned fire, hitting Jackson in the upper left arm twice. Jackson, now angered and fearful for his life, shot back, downing the officer. Jackson stood over him and shot him in the groin up to 4 times. The fallen officer, Deputy Kinchen, in a last attempt to plead with his killer, described his family, mother, and children to Jackson, hoping for mercy. But Jackson admits that by this time, my mind was gone, so I really wasn't paying attention. Jackson fired again at the officer on the ground, dripping his own blood on the concrete where he stood. Jackson then turned his attention to Deputy English, who was running toward the open field. Jackson believed English was flagging down another officer. He couldn't let him get away. Jackson hit English 4 times. One shot hit him in the leg. He soon fell, screaming, thereby confirming Jackson's shot. After English went down, Jackson, in a state of shock, walked down past the mosque. Nursing his bleeding wounds, he tried to stop 3 passing cars on the road. No one dared to pull over. He then walked back down the street and knocked on 3 different doors for assistance. Only one even turned the light on, but no one opened the door for Jackson. He then made his way back to his car and drove to his mother's home. As he walked in the door, the phone rang. His mother was asleep, so Jackson hurriedly answered it in the other room. It was a representative from the Sentinel company that provided the monitoring service for Jackson's ankle bracelet. The man on the phone asked where Jackson was. He responded that he was at work. The Sentinel representative explained that his unaccounted for absence would have to be marked down as a violation. Jackson agreed and quickly ended the conversation. Although one bullet exited through the back of his arm, the other was still lodged in his upper left arm. Jackson called a couple of female friends who were registered nurses. The women, who were informed by Jackson that he was robbed in the middle of the night, arrived at his house and worked for 3 hours to remove the bullet from his arm. Jackson then called Mustafa Tanner, whom he had met earlier in the evening, and asked him to come by his house. Tanner arrived before 10 a.m. Jackson explained what had happened the previous night and said he needed to get rid of the guns and the car. Jackson's car trunk contained enough artillery for a mini militia, 3 Ruger Mini 14 rifles, an M16 assault rifle, a .45 handgun, 3 9mm handguns, and a couple of shotguns. Once Tanner left, Jackson called his parole officer, Sarah Bacon, and let her know that he had been involved in the situation, but left out the details. In the following days, Jackson was asked to report to the Sentinel company. He checked in with the monitoring company and his parole officer and was then given a ride back home. As they pulled onto his street, Jackson noticed many unmarked police cars. After entering his driveway, multiple police officers emerged. The police searched Jackson's house and found rounds of Mini 14, .223, 9mm, and M16 ammunition. Jackson's bloody clothes and boots from the shootout with the deputies the night before were left untouched in his closet. On March 28, 2000, Jackson's parole was revoked and he was sent back to prison to serve the remainder of his sentence in Nevada. Upon his detainment in Florida and later transfer to Nevada, Jackson confessed the crime to anyone who would listen. Jackson claims that when he reached the Clark County Jail in Las Vegas, Nevada, he made numerous phone calls to the FBI, after which an agent arrived to discuss the incident with him. Jackson recalls telling his story to Special Agent Mahoney. Special Agent Devin Mahoney recalls documenting the confession, but not much beyond that. Mahoney remembers getting a call from a superior to talk to someone in Las Vegas jail and then to document it and file it up the chain of command. The confession was documented and filed on June 29, 2000. And that's the last time anybody heard of it. Sign the petition, share the petition, free Imam Jamil.
That's heavy right there. You know, I think let me pull this out. I think for one who I think I'm a freedom fighter. Let me say that. But the worst thing in the world is to see a freedom fighter who actually have dedicated every ounce of their being and every hour of their life before I was born and before I even knew what consciousness was, to be railroaded and just left there, with a ray of hope that this will be turned around. And again, as I said, we do a lot of these shows and I play around and we talk about these people that call themselves revolutionaries today. And we got a brother sitting here innocent with a confession on the record. This is not something where someone says, okay, you got Imam Jamil, I did it. No, this is something where someone says, I did it because they got locked up for another crime and it's not being heard. Is that what I'm hearing, Baba Bilal?
Yeah, he was on parole as the affidavit, the statement's affidavit. The brother was on parole, and so he didn't get violated, in spite of the fact that he was on parole and told his parole officer the issue. When it happened, they were so bent on getting Imam Jamil, or getting Imam Jamil, formerly known as A-Trap Brown, of getting him behind bars, that they didn't care. They didn't care about what the truth of the matter was. Just like they never did care what the truth of the matter was. They didn't care what the truth of the matter was in '67. In Maryland, they didn't care what the truth of the matter was in '71 in New York. They didn't care what the truth of the matter was in '95 in Atlanta. In 1995 in Atlanta, and they didn't care what the truth of the matter was in the year 2000.
So you mean to tell me, in the listening audience, I hope they're listening good, that over 4 decades, 5, if you will, that they have found a way just to ignore pertinent information in every case.
Right.
Every case. They ignore it, held the brother for a time, but in this case, they ignoring it and acting like it doesn't even exist.
Yeah, and we're telling you that, and we're telling the world that, and we're asking Fannie Willis, the new district attorney, who is in charge of the Conviction Integrity Unit. She says that the Conviction Integrity Unit's job is to look at cases in which the integrity of the conviction is in question. And there's no case where the integrity of the conviction is more in question than in the case of Imam Jamil. In fact, at the inaugural gathering of the Conviction Integrity Unit, former mayor, former ambassador Andrew Young addressed the Conviction Integrity Unit and told them to look at that case. That was the first case they was addressed, brought to look, that was discussed by our former mayor and former ambassador to the UN. Andrew Young said, look at the case of Imam Jamil, formerly known as A-Trap Brown. If there's any case that needs reviewing, it's that one. I'm quoting former mayor Andrew Young. That's exactly what he said to me. So Fannie Willis said that she would look at the case, and if it merits reassessment, she would deal with it. So she's been in office. She's been in office since the beginning of January. We're now approaching the middle of June. The world has seen the concession. What is she waiting for? What is the Conviction Integrity Unit waiting for? They've let people go. They've let a brother go who was accused of murder. They found that there was a case of somebody has perpetrated an armed assault against him, and he defended himself. And so there was a case of self-defense. They didn't give him a new trial. They just ruled it self-defense and let the brother go. That case took place 18 years ago. Imam Jamil was not even on the scene in this case. And we have a confession, which we had before he was arrested. And they say they're waiting, they're going to review the case. And I'm wondering, I'm thinking they're not reviewing the case. They just wait until stuff gets so hot that they can't handle it and they have to let him go. Such as with the case of Nelson Mandela. Stuff started happening all over the world, and then they said, well, you better let this guy go. And because we haven't done that, that has not been the case of what has taken place here in Georgia. They have not seen fit to let him go. They say they don't need to let him go. The people are not that upset about it. You have people who didn't do the crime. You have plenty of people. The jail is full of people that didn't do what they're accused of doing. And some of them who've been locked up for 50 years. Imam Jamil has been locked up for 20 years. The only reason we know about Imam Jamil is because he was famous when he got locked up. You got brothers who don't nobody know their name, who get picked up and charged with murder. Don't even nobody know who they murdered. We talk about how corrupt this court system is here. You got people who spent 40 years in jail for a crime they didn't commit.
Absolutely. I wanted to share this with everybody, and I'll put a link in the chat. I'll put the link in the comment section when it's over. But this is one of the confessions that Otis Jackson, man, you can find this stuff on the internet. You know what I mean? You can find this stuff on the internet. And I just Googled it. I, Otis Jackson, on the 16th or the 17th of the third month day of this year, I went home. I went to the home of Imam Jamil Al-Amin. I went to tell him that I was not going to put his name in any of my new business because I respect what he had done for blacks in the West End. And I was setting and putting things together for BLA in Atlanta. And I did not want people to feel any way he had a hand or anything to do with us. And talking with us, the cops showed up. They wanted to talk with the brother. And so are you familiar with that? What that is, it seems to me, is that Otis Jackson said he was in the West End. He went to talk to the imam, and basically he wanted to just say, listen, we know you don't have nothing to do with us and we don't have nothing to do with you. And then the police come, and then the things seem to go left from there. Brother, can you talk about that for a minute?
Well, I haven't heard the story the way you're expressing it now, what's being read. But I do know, for fact, I have read the affidavit, which Brother Kyrie read in the segment that you just played the recording of.
Well, let me say this, Imam. The brother Otis, he not only just made one confession, he made so many confessions. This one that I've showed is a handwritten confession. So there's a typed, there's a handwritten. I mean, they're all over the place. So in other words, he's really pressed at getting this information out. He goes into detail in saying why he was in the West End, who he talked to, why he talked to, when the police came, when everything kicked off. He's explaining what I'm saying, Brother Bilal. He's explaining in great detail that, as they were saying, these crime mysteries, only the culprit would know, or only someone involved would know. This is a crazy miscarriage of justice.
Right. And they ignored it.
Wow.
And that's the main thing, that the story that we're telling, in spite of these various attempts he made, like I even mentioned how he even called me on the phone. And all these attempts that he has made to let the world know that he is responsible and he wants to bear responsibility. The ones who are blocking it are the ones who are supposed to be bringing justice.
That is
conviction integrity unit, which is supposed to examine the integrity of convictions, are letting this ride.
Wow.
And that's right, in spite of the fact that had it not been for Imam Jamil, had it not been for Imam Jamil, you wouldn't have people even voting with people that voted for them in office would be scared to vote. Had it not been for the activity of Imam Jamil, as under the name H.Rap Brown, as he was known back in those days.
Brother, allow me to finish reading this so the audience can feel the energy of Brother Otis, which is, I think he's doing, I don't think he's doing a very honorable thing. And I just want to read just a little bit more so that people can get better perspective of this situation. So it goes on to say, and I did not want people to feel in any way that he had or has anything to do with us. And talking with us, the cops showed up and they wanted to talk with the brother. And I did not like what was being said or the way they talked. So I got into it with one of the cops, and he and me something, and he waved me to stay out of it. We got into a fight, and I pulled out my gun, shot at the other officer, and then went to my car and got another gun and shot the same ones and shot the same more. Something like that. It's no big, the way that it's written is hard. It's hard to read a little bit, but I'm gonna get through it. And then got into the car and went home. I had a 9mm on my person, a shot with the gun. Then I went to the car getting my other gun. I'm not sure what gun I picked up because I had 6 guns in the car. A minute. Okay, I see. A 9mm looks like it. Something, SK, M16, AK-47, something, 45 mag. So I do not know that I did not pick up the handgun because I already had one on me, the 9mm. The shooting came to pass at about the 16th or 17th on the something 2000, 17th of 2000, something like that. I think he's trying to name the month. Otis Milton Jackson, 6'3", do say the things I have said of my own free will. I have said this to the best they will cause. I'm not sure what that's saying. I try to forget that day. Something like that. But the point that I'm making is this is a written confession, but there's also typed confessions out there that I've read. And this is insane that we live in a society where we have a brother who cleaning up the community, who would be the very one to tell the drug dealer, don't shoot the sheriff. Don't shoot the police. No, brother, there's another way. Come in the mosque. Come sit down and talk to me. This is crazy that they would want somebody off the streets that would potentially protect them by the way of civilizing or raising the consciousness of somebody. This is insane to me, brother. This is insane to me. Let me allow Brother Akhenaten to chime in for a second. And brother, what do you think, brother? Come on, I see you shaking your head. And I know you've heard this story, but you get to see my reaction to this. So what's going through your mind right now?
Grand Chief, what's going through my mind. You know how I get real passionate and heated about this particular issue and really all our political prisoners. But I want us to say you brought it out so well. He's sitting up here telling the details that only a person would know that was there on the scene. You hit that dead on target. Only one that would know that. And so we ought to know what's going on here now. All right, we ought to know. But what bothers me, and it's just like what Baba Bilal Sunni Ali just said. They're not going to do nothing until we do something. So I'm thinking about Grand Sheik. You've had series of programs talking about those who profess to be political prisoners. I mean, profess to be revolutionaries, right? But I'm trying to ask, like, where are those? You know, this is our comrade that's been here for years, right? Where are the comrades? You got a few hundred people watching right now, but on all those other shows that you talked about, the ones that want to carry around and march with their weapons, right? But they're not here. You announced talking about Imam Jamil Al-Amin, H. Brown, and why aren't they here now? You had some of these sessions where you had almost 1,000 people on watching Moorish World TV. And you told them, even last night, there was several hundred people. Where they at? That's what I'm talking about. Where are they at with their, when Bilal Sunni Ali and I was out there representing the solidarity on behalf of the Moorish Science Temple of America and our civic political arm, TAFA, the Alliance for Political Accountability. Where were they Friday? In Atlanta. We got people bragging about they in Atlanta with the weapon. Where are they at? We was in front of the district attorney's office. You know, where are they at to stop the traffic, to bring attention to it? We did that, and it should happen with places like George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, you know, all these incidents, which rightfully we should be, but we should be even more for a freedom fighter that has given up their life. We should be out there, you know. And Friday we weren't. That amount of people were not there to defend our brother Imam Jamil, who had put his life on the line for us. So that's what bothers me more than anything. You know, we had people that rightfully we should be out there supporting, stopping traffic and all that. But here's a brother who's innocent, 21 years sitting in prison. And as you put in your caption, this is execution by medical neglect. Same thing they doing with our brother Mumi Abu Jamal, in who's suffering in a medical condition. We should be as outraged, even more outraged, because of the sacrifices, that benefits that we are benefiting from now because of the work that Imam Jamil Al-Amin has done.
And let me add to this, brother. This type of story makes me go harder on the frauds. This type of story makes me go harder on the frauds, because you know why? Honor to those who may have lost their life due to this oppressive system. But if Imam Jamil unfortunately would succumb to this situation and return to the ancestors, these same frauds will be sitting in front somewhere talking about Imam Jamil. But these same frauds will not step up and address the system who has perpetrated a lie to have Imam Jamil suffer in a jail cell for something that he didn't do. But George Floyd, man, may Allah bless his family, Breonna Taylor. But I mean, with all due respect, I just want to put some perspective to it. They have joined the ancestors. Imam is here. Jamil is here. Millions of marches going on around the country for George, rightfully so. Tons of people show up in Louisville for Breonna Taylor, rightfully so. But Imam Jamil, also known as H-Rap Brown, is here, alive. But medically, he's not that well. And we're going to talk about that right now. How is the Imam doing as it relates to his health, Brother Bilal? Are you there, brother?
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Imam Jamil is at this point, he cannot see. He was on the waiting list to have surgery on his eyes to remove cataracts from his eye. But they used COVID-19 as a cover for not moving him. But we know for a fact there have been people who have been moved, who have been given surgery during this COVID period, where they say there's no movement in the prison. He's classified as a Category 4 prisoner, which means he should be receiving 24. He should be in a facility where he gets 24-hour a day medical supervision, but they refuse to put him in such a facility.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Many people would write and he would write back almost immediately, but right now he can't read the letters if you send him letters. Someone has to read them to him. If he wants to go anywhere he wants to go in the prison, you can imagine he spent 17 and a half years in solitary confinement, so that now that he's in general population, he doesn't know his way around because he's never been in general population for almost 2 decades of the 2 decades that he's been locked down. So now that he's in general population, he doesn't know his way around. He never knew his way around when he could see. So he doesn't know his way around. He has to be guided and led by someone who does know the way around to the prison. He could not even go back to his cell when it's time to go back to his cell because he doesn't know his way around the prison. He was kept in solitary confinement by people over 18 and a half years. Now he's completely blind. He can't see it all. He can't read it all. He can't go on his own anywhere. He also has a condition of iron bone. It's a dormant state of cancer, and they said that if the condition became worse, they would treat him for it. That since it's dormant, they're not doing anything about it. And we say, how can we believe that when we have the case of Mumia Abu Jamal, when they knew what his condition was, and the judge ordered that Mumia Abu Jamal be given certain medicine, and the prison system in Pennsylvania, they went to court to get a stay on the judge's order to refuse to give him medicine that would save his life. By the time they went through all the legal shenanigans and were finally forced to give him his medicine, that stage 2 diabetes, type 2 diabetes, which he had been diagnosed with 2 years prior to all of this legal machinations going on, he had then developed cirrhosis of the liver. So the medicine that he was ordered, wasn't even the medicine that he needed by the time the fight was over and it was clear for them to give him the medicine. So these are the same people, the same type of people who are telling us that even though Imam Jamil has a case that's dormant, and if it became worse, they would see to it that he was treated right. They haven't proven that they would do that. They've proven that they will not do that in the case of so many others.
So when was the last time somebody physically spoke? What I mean, last time. What was the last time somebody spoke to the imam, formerly known as H. Rat Brown?
We have two brothers who spoke to him within the last week by telephone. Brother Chad Abdullah, who lives in the West End, and also Brother Luke Sadiq, who's the deputy emir of the Humanitarian Action Network, who lives in Dunn, North Carolina. Both of them spoke to Imam within this last week, within the last 4 days.
And how he's faring, consider the conditions of what you explained and the conditions of prison and even everything that he's up against.
That in spite of all of that, he's in cheer.
Okay, looks like we lost Brother.
Hold on,
Brother Bilal.
Brother Bilal.
Okay.
I jumped out. They dropped me out for a second. Hold up, but we back in. So I asked you a question. They didn't catch it. Your answer. I was asking, considering everything that he's facing, whether it be his health, whether it be the prison system and the circumstances surrounding the case, how is the brother feeling? And then somehow my feed just dropped. But how is the brother feeling and how is his spirits?
Okay, according to the last two brothers that I spoke with, Brother Chad Abdullah in the West End of Atlanta, and Brother Luke Sadiq in Dunn, North Carolina, the deputy emir of the Humanitarian Action Network, Imam Jamil is in good spirits. He's in cheerful, good spirits. It's not wearing down on him at all. He's in cheerful, good spirits, and it's only Allah who maintains him. He says they didn't make him, so they can't break him.
Exactly.
And so he refuses to be broken. And it's amazing the level of spirit that he's in. I know the last time that I had an opportunity to talk with him, when his son said that his father was on the phone, wanted to speak to me. As I walked to the phone, I practiced saying, Imam Jamil, is there anything I could do for you? And I grabbed the phone before I could get the words out of my mouth. Imam was saying, Bilal, can I do it? Do you need anything? That's his level of dedication and his level of practice. I was practicing how I could beat him to the punch of asking him, can I do something for him? And he beat me to it and asked me, could he do anything for me?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. That's a big thing, brother.
That's real leadership.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And this is why I'm so honored to have you on the show, brother. You're a legend in your own right. And I was taking a chance. Let me tell you this, Brother Bilal. I was taking a chance because I wanted you to speak on your accomplishments and I wanted to speak on yourself. And I knew that it was taking a chance because you have been steadfast in being one of the voices, major voices for our brother Imam Jamil, also formerly known as H. Rat Brown. And I knew you didn't want the spotlight on you, and you went through it with me. So I appreciate that, brother. We know that you are a giant in our community, and if they don't know, they will know, because when I come to Atlanta, I will be sitting down with you. I just want to say, brother, can you paint us a picture as we begin to close? Will you be able to paint us a picture of what it looks like for the future for our brother? Can we be hopeful? What can we do to speed up the process so we can have more hope? Where can we can you just paint a picture of what we need to do, where we need to subscribe, and does it look hopeful? What's happening, brother? Can you just give us something?
Well, what we are doing is we're meeting at the Fulton County courthouse, where the district attorney's office is, in that building, 185 Central on the corner of Central and Martin Luther King. We meet there every second Friday of the month at rush hour from 4 p.m. to 5:30. And as Brother Brand Sheikh Ahmed was saying, we had about 30 people out there the first time we had the vigil. We had about 20 to 25 people when we had the vigil this past Friday. And we hope to have more when we do it again. But what we really need is not just more people when we do it again. We need more people so that the 20 of us who have been coming for don't have to come for. Hundreds should be coming for. And we should not be meeting one Friday out of the month on lunch hour. For the sacrifices that Imam Jamil has put down, for the seriousness of the struggle that we are engaged in, we need to have people there every minute of the day. You should not be able to get into the district attorney's office at this point in the game. You should not be able to get to the courthouse because there should be thousands of people blocking your way to get into the courthouse, demonstrating for the freedom of Imam Jamil.
And what street you said you're going to be on? Is that Turner Drive or where is it again so I can put it in?
It's 185 Central Avenue Southwest.
Okay. 185
yeah.
Central Avenue. And you said Southwest. Okay, I got it right here.
30303.
I'm about to put it.
That's Martin Luther King Jr. Drive and Central Avenue.
Okay, let me see if I can. So is that Fulton State Court?
Yeah, it's Fulton County Court.
Okay. Central Avenue. You said 3?
The zip is 30303.
03. And this is every would you say how often do you show up there?
Yeah, the next one will be July 9th, the second Friday in July 9th at 4 p.m.
All right. July 9th at 4 p.m. I want to put it on the screen real quick to let people know that if you are in the Atlanta area and at 4 p.m., let me get the zip code again. What's the zip code again?
30303.
30303.
Correct.
4 p.m. I want to put this on the screen. 4 p.m.
4 p.m. to 5:30.
To 5:30. And how often is this? Every other month?
Every second Friday.
Okay.
But there'll be one on the 9th of July. There'll be another one on the 7th of August. There'll be another one on the 5th of September, and so on.
Good. There we go. So yeah, I'm gonna.
There'll be one on the 5th of July. There'll be one on the 13th of August, and there'll be one on the 10th of September. That's the second Friday of each month.
So if y'all are in the ATL area on July the 9th, you should be there. You know, if you're watching Morse World TV show, this interview, you should be there without a doubt. Let me write it in here real quick. July, I'm gonna put it in the comment section. 9th. 20. 21. And what's that? 4 o'clock, 4 p.m. 4 p.m. So I just put it in the comment section, family. If you're in the ATL, you could take an hour out of your day. I think a lot of times we don't really see how we do waste a lot of time. And so in wasting time, we could dedicate a little bit time for a big cause. And that big cause is definitely to get our brother, bring attention to getting our brother free, and hopefully getting our brother free. And let me see this real quick. Bam. There you go, right there. So I got it on the screen right there. So, brother, anything that you want to add to this conversation that I may have missed in my sitting at the footstool of a giant in our community? Is there anything that I may have missed that you could add?
I just want to add the website. The first website is imamjamilactionnetwork.org.
Okay, I'm gonna put that in the chat also, so anybody can go to that.
We have another website, which is www.whathappenedtorap. You use the number 2, rap.com. So that's www.whathappenedtorap.com. We have an email address.
Assalamu alaikum. What's going on, y'all? I apologize for the delay in giving you.
One moment. I think his son just came up on the video when I logged in. So I'm doing that now.
Okay, we have a web address and a phone number. That email address is info@imamjamilactionnetwork.org.
Okay.
imamjamilactionnetwork.org. And we have a phone number where you can call us at 833-999-IJAM. That's 833-999-IJAM.
All right. I'm trying to get all this up in here. So, okay. Everybody get that? I'm going to try to drop this, and I'm looking at for the email. What's the email one more time?
The email is info, INFO, at imamjamilactionnetwork.org.
All right. I'm putting that in there also. Imam Jamil Action Network. Got you. Putting that in there. .org. I think that's it right there. Let me make sure and double check. Now, family, I'm taking my time to do this because I want to make sure that each and every one of you that would like to help or assist, inquire, you'll be able to do that. And what's the phone number, my brother? One more time.
Our phone number is 833-999-IJAM.
You said 833-999.
IJAM. That's the acronym for IJAM, Imam Jamil Action Network. 833-999-IJAM.
Got it. There we go. And last but not least, brother, how do those who want to assist or those that want to maybe bring more attention to this or talk to you to see how they can help out, where can they get in contact with you? How can they get in contact with you?
If you call that number, the voice that picks up the phone and answers will most likely be mine.
Excellent.
If it's not my voice, someone with the Imam Jamil Action Network will speak to you and answer your questions.
That was it. Okay. Imam Jamil Action Network. Somebody say it's an N. What did I miss? Let me make sure I get it right. What did I miss? Make sure I ain't getting nothing wrong here. Somebody said, my sister said it's an N. I'm not sure what she means. It's an N. Type it in there for me, sis. Type it in there for me so I can post it. Say it again.
Hey, Grand Chief.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think she probably referring to Brother Cryptonomics. He was helping out, and he has an M instead of an N in there. And also, I sent in your message inbox a flyer, and it has all that information on it.
Oh, Jane, I got you. I thank you. 1 second. Thank you, my sister. And brother, that's a young sister out of Louisville, a true freedom fighter. In the spirit of the new Black Panthers, or the Black Panthers, if you will. Her and her crew do big work on the ground. They don't be jumping and chasing ambulance for no cameras and all of that. They really try to do some things for our people there. She's in the chat tonight, and I'm pretty sure that you have inspired her and her circle of people that's on the front line trying to do something for our people in real time, as opposed to getting in front of a camera and trying to become superstar heroes of revolution. You know what I mean? We got to get this work done. But Brother Akhenaten, what were you saying?
I was saying I dropped in your inbox the flyer that had that information on it, and it's a double flyer. And if anybody wants that flyer, they can reach out, as Baba Bilal has said, because you can help us in this effort. And this is not just a local effort in Atlanta. This is national. You know, Imam Jamil had influence over people nationally, internationally, in fact. So if you contact any of those contact information, you could organize in your area and, make sure that this attention is being brought on his condition. One of the things that, I saw in the chat that people were saying, that's a shame that, Imam Jamil, that's torture for him, and that's correct. Now imagine the torture that's happening with his wife, his son, for 21 years being without their father. That's torture. The community that has been left without their powerful leadership that Imam Jamil has been for the community, not only his masjid, but the whole community. And so this is a national effort, and anybody in Atlanta, of course, will be right there. There are people who are organizing in different cities that can bring attention to this. Sign the petition, as you heard his son keep reiterating. Sign the petition. The petition is still there. We still need more signatures, and you can connect with people in Atlanta. Pass this YouTube around so that people can be well educated, well informed. There's a lot of things, Grand Sheik, of course, that Baba Bilal is in his modesty and being humble about it. So it might be another time that we can bring him on and talk about.
I get him face to face. That's right. We go smile and we go because if Brother Bilal has relayed the message that our brother Imam Jamil is in good spirits, that makes me feel good that I can share the love by presenting our brother in conjunction with fighting for our brother Jamil. So I definitely going to present Brother Bilal to the people because he is a giant in the community. If I put the link, I'm going to put his name in there, and all you got to do is Google his name. Like in my video that I put up earlier today where the sister said, he was like, Google it, Google it, Google it. All you got to do is Google it, and it'll speak for itself. So yes, this brother is a giant in our community, and I definitely would like to cover his story and his journey. One of the things that jump out to me, if you don't mind me asking, brother, your work with, I think it was Sister Asada Shakur during those times, brother. What was the mood the temperature of our people at that time in the struggle, brother?
The temperature, we had a group called the National Task Force, the COINTELPRO Research and Litigation, where we knew the reason that Assata Shakur was driven underground was because of her political work, not because of her military work. She was driven underground because of her day-to-day political work. She was a student at City University in New York, and she was a member of the Black Panther Party.
That's right.
When the state claimed that she was responsible for a number of robberies, kidnaps, attempted murder, etc., we brought the issue to court. And when the issue came to court, we had people. We had the prosecutor asked one of the people who had supposedly had been kidnapped by Assata Shakur if he could point her out in the courtroom. Every time they did that, the person who was supposedly kidnapped by Assata Shakur, they said Assata Shakur was up in their face, they failed to point out Assata Shakur. They pointed out other people in the courtroom who they thought it was, which proved that they didn't know Assata Shakur from anybody else in the courtroom. Anybody who was near that defense table, they assumed was Assata Shakur, so they pointed them out. And not one time did they ever point out Sister Assata Shakur. So people understood that she was innocent. All the charges and all just like all of the things that they were saying about Imam Jamil. If they had had a fair trial, he would have been proven innocent beyond a shadow of a doubt. That's why they didn't let fair trial go. That's why they didn't let a fair trial take place. In the case of Assata Shakur, you asked about the mood. The mood of our people, for instance, on the day that Assata Shakur was taken into custody, she was shot in the back by New Jersey state troopers. They say that she, and it's important to understand that she's charged with felony murder. She's not charged with murder in the sense that they're saying that she shot and killed a policeman. They're saying that she was in an incident, and this is what felony murder means. People should understand that you were involved in an incident in which somebody lost their life. So they shot and killed her partner, and they shot her, but she didn't die. That means she was involved in an incident where somebody lost their life. Yeah. One of her partners lost her life. Brother Zayd Malik Shakur lost his life. The state trooper lost his life, but she didn't shoot him. She should not be labeled as a cop killer. And on that day that she was shot, Brother Sunni Akoli bolted from the car and ran into the woods. When they put a description of Sunni of what he was wearing, at least 100 brothers nearly fitting his description went and got clothes like what they said he wore and walked out into the woods into the direction where they were looking for him to interfere with the police trying to capture our freedom fighters. That was the mood. That was the mood of the community at that time.
Wow. So when we look, go ahead, brother. When people saying that they wanted to stop, they were signs all over the community
with pictures of Assata Shakur. People were putting it on their doors saying, Assata Shakur is welcome here. On buildings, on school buildings, on people's private houses, on people's lawns. There were signs saying, Assata Shakur is welcome here. That was the mood of the community at the time of Sister Assata Shakur. So that was the mood when the brothers and sisters went and released her from prison. And we call it a release because it was a legitimate release. The National Task Force for COINTELPRO Research and Litigation had done their work.
I love when you say that, brother. Brother, what's the name of that again, brother? I feel that's what I'm doing. I'm showing these COINTEL people who they... Yes, sir. What's the name of that?
That's right.
That demonstration again, brother?
It's the National Task Force for COINTELPRO Research and Litigation.
Man, I feel better. The ancestors just spoke to me. I'm all right.
That's the apparatus that served to get Brother Deruba bin Wahid out of prison. That's the apparatus that served to get Brother Geronimo Chichava, also known as Geronimo Pratt. Get him out of prison. The National Task Force for COINTELPRO Research and Litigation was formulated by Dr. Matulu Shakur and his wife at that time, Sister Amy Shakur.
Do y'all see how this stuff that people are calling revolution is a joke now? Where
Come on.
These
That's what I'm talking about.
These are educated brothers and sisters. They don't run around using profanity and epithets just to cause emotional uproar. They actually have things in place to retrieve their brothers and sisters who get caught up by those who want to catch them up. Do y'all see why I'm so passionate about these frauds and fakes? They have nothing in place to address those who may get wrapped up and caught up in the system unjustly. They don't have no lawyers. They don't have the resources of intellect. They put a camera on their face and start talking and cussing people out. Every person that this brother named were educated, not only what some would call Afrocentricity, and I'm talking about knowing yourself, but also educated in the European system that is used and perpetrated against us. These are political. They're aware of the political scheme that has been played against us. And so they activate their political awareness. They learn the law, not just to quote it, but to utilize it to extract brothers and sisters out of the situations that would prohibit them from working for their people. And we looked at a video and inspired by somebody just yelling Black Power. The brother said at the beginning of the broadcast that it's more than that. Man, Bilal, amazing, brother. Could you take us out, big brother?
Hey, Grand Chief, before you get back over to Baba Bilal, what about, when we talk about how they were so organized enough to capture Assata Shakur out of prison and get her out of the country. That's organization.
Man,
that's real power.
Highest height. That's organization at the highest height. And we have a brother right here, right now, not a descendant of it, but was walking in the circles with it.
That's right.
Y'all see the difference? Y'all see the difference of this new social media revolutionary? This brother is still doing the work. You know what? With all due respect, Brother Bilal, feet should be kicked up, and younger people like myself and you out there that's watching this should be organizing to educate ourselves to be more effective than they were yesterday. And they were truly effective yesterday. We are dropping the ball today.
Hey, Grand Chief, so effective even without social media. We got more advantages and tools today that they didn't have.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And as you said, if I do a show in 20 minutes, I could take this show down and say, I'm putting up the tape about Michi X and K Foss. It'll be 1,000 people in here tonight.
Yep.
I'm telling you, if I just said uncut K Foss, Michi X, releasing the video, it'll be 1,000 people in here tonight. Do you see how our psyche is messed up? Brother Bilal, man, I appreciate you, brother.
Yes.
I will be seeing you soon, real soon. But I would like you to close us out with any departing words. May Allah, the ancestors, and the community continue to bless your efforts. I'm with you 1,000%. I'm so blessed to have direct access to real revolutionaries. And when I say real revolutionaries, I'm talking about those that don't look for the accolades, those that do what need to be done for our people because it need to be done. And I have direct access by the way of my brother Akhenaten Salam Bey, because he see my heart and he provides me with access to which he have had access to from experience, as well as being a part of the liberation process. This is why I tell everybody, if you ain't got no elders, you can't fight this fight, because you don't know the real story. They didn't pass you down nothing to fight with. And if you know some people with some gray whiskers, you better decide whether they old people or elders. Elders impart wisdom so you can take us to the next level. Unfortunately, some old people, they will sit around and just spectate what's going on, like the lady looking out the window. But elders, they give you wisdom to take us to the next level. Get some elders so we can protect the old people. And old people ain't talking about no age, because many people will come on social media just spectating. They just old people. That's what old people do. Whether they're 20, whether they're 30, 40, 50, 60, or 70, they just old people. But people that give you advice, they become guiders of the nation. They become elders. And that's what I appreciate in you, Brother Akhenaten, and all of the elders that I have been fortunate to be in the company of. I can't get this passion no other place. I can't. Internet ain't gonna give me this. And internet ain't gonna give you this. So I'm gonna stay fighting the fight to expose the falsehood in our community that is just causing a disturbance and not bringing us towards true resolution or revolution. And if you want to be a real revolutionary, show up for the living. Show up for the living. Yeah, we need to honor the dead, quote unquote, our ancestors, but what about the living? I'm going to let our brother take us out with the final words if Akhenaten don't have nothing else to say.
I yield the floor, Baba Bilal Sunni Ali.
Thanks so much. I just would like to, thank you, Brother Prince Sheikh Talaka Bey, and thank you, Brother Sheikh Akhenaten Salam Bey, and thank your listening audience. Thank you for developing the platform that allows us to get on the platform and deliver the truth. And we want everyone to remember. I remember when the issue had first come about that we learned that Imam Jamil was in custody. His first words to us was to be patient. And he reminded us that Prophet Muhammad, the peace and blessings of Allah be forever upon him, that he told us never to pray for war. He said, never pray for war, never pray for armed conflict. But when it comes, be patient. He didn't say if it comes. He said, never pray for war. When war comes to you, be patient. And be patient doesn't mean that do nothing and just sit there and wait. Be patient means be diligently working toward the issue of liberation. But be patient in getting and expecting and realizing every result. Because every day is a form of victory. To be able to fight is to be able to win. Some of our victories are in the fact that we just arrange ourselves for battle. We want to continue to appreciate those of you who want to work on behalf of freedom fighters. We are actually able to free Jamil now, to free Jamil now, to free all political prisoners now. And we ask the Lord to guide over us. We ask the Lord to please continue to return Imam Jamil to a state of health, to release him from his present imprisoned condition, to give him long life, and after giving him long life, give him Jannah, give him paradise, a place in the garden for his long life of struggle. Give us the patience and the victory. Amen.
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 And with that, family, I close the show on that note. As our brother Jesus said, Isa said, it is finished. And what we're referring to is the end of Satan. We're referring to the end of this madness. And the only way something can be finished, you must put a period to it and restart anew. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Bilal.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Islam, Grand Sheik, AGS. I don't want more. I'm going to let it go right there.
That's all need to be said, Grand Sheik. I would just say for people that are on it right now, pass it along. I saw a brother from Kenya that's on here. Just pass the YouTube along. You know, this is educational. It give a background. They don't want to see that happen. So as often as you can, share it. Share it to all the groups that you know of, and this gets the message around. The media has a blackout on this. You know, this is why we're grateful for the Grand Sheik and Grand Sheik. I just want to salute you again. You know, I tell you, I want to just say it publicly. You have been guided by Allah to do this work, you know, to reveal, as you heard, how Baba Bilal talked about how they were organizing and exposing this COINTELPRO. A lot of people think it's dead. It's real. It's what's happening real time, and you've exposed that real time on your platform here. You expose how that COINTELPRO is happening real time. And so honors to your work. I see you continuously growing on your platform. I like the technical skills that you really develop. I'm watching you. You know, with my broadcast background with radio and television, you are really doing a great job. The social media is now the place that people go. So I just honor you. And you know, when we was doing Task for Work this past Saturday and Sunday. I had to share our brother Jakuma. I won't say any further, but you remember him telling you were doing some dynamic research and you do it real time. And I just want to honor that, and people should honor what you are doing right here in terms of that powerful research. And then they not only bring it just, giving information, but you entertain people, you edutain people, you teach-attain people, you empower-tain people, So that's what this is about. And, I'm about to do my radio program. Bilal also, he's one of the soldiers there at WRFG, giving a shameless plug. We've been there 40 years. We are a terrestrial and celestial radio, as we say, because we're 89.3 FM in Atlanta. Baba Bilal has the longest running public affairs programming that's entertainment, edutainment, has a lot of the political prisoners that come on. That's every Friday, family, at 6 p.m. And you could hear a political prisoner report, and he has the youth now taking that over. It's that Friday night African drum, What Good Is a Song, that was pioneered by himself and his wife, Eolosha Fulani Sunni Ali, who's an ancestor now and a fierce warrioress. And if y'all look her up, you know what I'm talking about, following along with our Baba Bilal. So thanks, Grand Sheik, and I'll be on at midnight. So if people want to check us out, we are celestial at wrfg.org. We have a mobile app. You can download it, and also with live streaming. And of course, those who are here in Atlanta, it's 89.3 FM. We're celebrating now 48 years listener-supported radio. And I mention that again, Grand Chief, keep doing what you're doing, because there's a media blackout by the mass media mind manipulators, and they're doing a good job. And it's important for us to have radio programs in honor to WRFG for providing that platform for us to be able to bring uncensored information. And you do the same right here at Moore's World TV, Channel 7, and you expanding even more. Go ahead, brother, with your bad self. Grand Sheik, the people's Grand Sheik.
and as the brother just mentioned, I was going to close, but as the brother was mentioning about the media blackout, I also created a back channel where it's a subscription channel. I just put the link in there where we know that they will attack our information. And until we have our own platform that's ran by us, owned by us, we have to find other means to keep the information going. So you can come to this channel. I just put the link in, called Throne Live, and everything is in real time. It's like a Facebook where I can put the videos up, I can put the comments up, you can put the comments up, I can highlight all my videos so you can get it. So videos that I won't put here because it would be censored, you can get it right there. Brother Bilal, I said I'm giving you the last word, and so brother, say one more thing so I can make it official. Is Brother Bilal there? I hope I ain't talking. I didn't talk.
Okay, yeah.
There you go. Yeah, I got to make it official, brother. We talkers too, brother. Work with me, brother. I love you, my brother, but I do want to let you, allow you to have the last word, brother. Come on with it.
Well, we appreciate you again. Appreciate both of you. Appreciate the work you're doing. And I want to, there's another platform that I will talk to you about that you could unite with, that we're united with when we do the broadcasting for the upcoming tribunal, the Political Prisoners Tribunal that's going to be held in March. Excuse me. It's going to be held in October of this year. So I want people to continue listening to you, continue to listen to the various platforms that we'll try to unite. So we have our own network, just like we have, we are our own liberators. We have to be our own broadcasters of the work we're doing. So there's several platforms that I would like to go ahead and unite you with, and want to actually unite you with them before we announce it on the air and call somebody to make a move to make that not happen. So we want to move strategically, but we're definitely on the way to being able to tell our story to our people, and to tell our story to all the people. And so I just want to say thank you again for the listeners and watchers to please take down the website, get in touch with us at the website, at both of those websites, www.NamJamilActionNetwork.org and www.whathappenedtorap. Call us at 833-999-IJAN and email us at info@NamJamilActionNetwork.org. So just want to say good night and keep struggling. One thing that I'm going to say, there was a group that called Sweet Honey in the Rock, which many of you listening audience may have heard of, but they did a song called Ella's Song, which I want to close with some of the verses of. Because in Ella's song, it says, "We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. That which touches me most is that I've had a chance to work with people, passing on to others that which has been passed on to me. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. To me, young people come first. They have the courage where we fail. If I can just shed some light on them as they carry us through the veil. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes."
Yes, sir.